And from our nation's capital to our state capital, new details tonight involving Florida State Senator Jack Latvala and his accusations that he inappropriately touched women and verbally degraded them as well. According to Politico, the woman who filed a sexual harassment complaint against Latvala is an employee of the Senate chamber. In the complaint, the woman claims the Republican gubernatorial candidate groped her.
And we know the accuser is remaining anonymous right now for fear of retribution, while Latvala vows to fight the accusations.
Joining us now, senior writer for Politico, Marc Caputo, who was the first to break the story. He's also worked in the state's capital, Tallahassee, for years. Let's talk about these accusations against Latvala. What have we learned?
Well, what we know is that we have 6 women, as you said, who said in various circumstances over the years, and these are women who have worked in the Florida Capitol for a long period of time, that he had grabbed them inappropriately. 5 of them say that. One of them say that he was just merely, so to speak, verbally degrading, talking about her weight, how sexy she was, and the like. And they decided to come forward over time as the news kind of leaked out, as the Harvey Weinstein situation happened, and more people were comfortable talking about it.
And those are the women claiming sexual misconduct, but then there's another story involving Latvala, right, about supposedly kissing someone caught on camera, kissing a female lobbyist.
Right, so some shady person or group had paid for a private investigator to follow him around and catch him in who knows what. And as part of surveilling Senator Latvala, they got him kissing a lobbyist on the lips. It wasn't a full, deep, passionate kiss, but nevertheless, it was a kiss on the lips, not something you see every day at the Florida Capitol. It's not kind of like a, kiss on the cheek. And then there was some video of him getting very close to a woman, a different woman who was a lobbyist in a restaurant or a bar. And in that case, the lobbyist that we spoke to had said, well, this was consensual. He said it was consensual, it's perfectly innocent. But I have to tell you, this is not typical behavior that you see between lawmakers and lobbyists, at least not out in the open.
Well, what are people in Tallahassee saying about this? Is it giving us a peek into how things operate there?
It is. Understand that, when you have the Harvey Weinstein situation, there are a lot of studios in Hollywood and there are a lot of producers. There's only one Florida Capitol. So if you do business there, that's the game. There's only one Florida Senate budget chairman. He was that. And so a lot of women have trouble coming forward because it is an old boys network. Tallahassee is a pretty isolated place. It's not a place that you can easily get to. And a lot of women really greatly fear for their professions, for their lives, for their reputations. And so it's been difficult to get them to come forward. Now, the Florida State Senate employee who did file a rules complaint against him with what's called the Rules Committee, an internal Senate complaint, her identity will probably eventually become public. We don't know it yet, or we're not comfortable saying what it is yet. And when that happens, Senator Latvala is probably going to face a real problem staying in the Senate, because if she's deemed credible, it's going to be difficult to see how these other senators are going to vote to keep him in office.
I have to ask you, this is a quote in the Florida News Service from Lori Killinger, who's a veteran lobbyist, also an attorney, and she says, quote, "In the same way that campaign contributions can play a significant role in how important public policies are adopted, sex can also drive decisions legislators make about public policy," almost kind of insinuating that this is the way business is done.
Well, they do say sex sells for a reason, and it's the oldest profession. Now, we can't say that all lobbyists do this. I do think that there are more rumors about it than there are facts. But there was a young woman, or better said, a woman who I spoke to recently who's a lobbyist, has been a lobbyist for a long time. She said when she first started out, a longtime lobbyist, a woman had informed her that you shouldn't have sex to get your bills passed, because if you do, that's the only way you'll get your bills passed. This is one of the first pieces of information that a young woman has to learn. And that speaks to a greater problem with the culture in Tallahassee.
Well, you mentioned Hollywood and the Weinstein case. Of course, we're seeing this in the world of politics now with the Senate race in Alabama that we just talked to Mola Lenghi about. And it seems like in Alabama, Roy Moore supporters are backing him. They're sort of rallying around him. Here we have Latvala, who has thrown his hat into the ring for the Republican nomination for governor. Are we seeing a similar reaction to try to rally around him and support him through this?
Well, not really, for 2 reasons. Number one, he was kind of a long shot candidate anyway. We're also in kind of the pre-primary season where there are other Republicans who are running for this office or planning to. The Florida House Speaker and the other chamber in the Florida legislature, Richard Corcoran, he called on Latvala promptly to resign. Corcoran, by the way, is probably going to run for governor as well, but that's given Latvala the excuse to say, oh, this is all about politics. By the way, I can assure you it's not. The 6 women we spoke to, 3 of them are Republicans and 3 of them are Democrats. 5 of them are lobbyists. 1 of them is a Republican Senate staffer who is a Republican.
All right. Thanks a lot, Marc Caputo from Politico. Thanks a lot for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.